Sometimes it takes more than one brilliant move to beat a grandmaster. And today, we're going to look at the man, the boy, the myth, the legend, Tani Talua Adewumi, and how he did it. But before we get to the first move, make sure you hit subscribe. Okay, this is a game that Tani played recently on his way to yet another International Master norm performance. He was white, but he finds himself down a pawn, and if he gives black even one move, then the king is going to castle, get himself out of danger, and actually, this bishop won't be pinned anymore because a black rook will land here and the black rook will be spying the queen. So, this all boils down to one key moment. You can't let black castle. And what does he do? Well, maybe you're thinking about a move like bishop g5 or something to cut off the king's ability to castle. But, you know, black can actually play f6 and the game's a little bit complicated and black can maybe survive. So, Tani plays the move d5. That is brilliant move number one. Now, black has nothing better than to capture, and capture is what black did. Now, after sacrificing the second pawn, Tani does what every good chess kid does and puts PP on the PP, plays the move bishop c5 to put pressure on the pinned piece, and he's about to capture the bishop. There's actually no way for black to save the bishop, because if you try a move like knight to e7, well, you actually lose quite spectacularly. Bishop to b5 check, and unless you want to give me your queen, your king has to run away, but then queen takes bishop is just a mate. Now black's a grandmaster and not going to get mated just like that. So black actually kind of finds a brilliant defense. Black gives away the bishop by castling because after bishop takes, now white is in not exactly an eternal pin, but a really bad pin, and black finds a brilliant move because if we give Tani one more move, he's going to fix his problem on the pin. He can play a move like queen takes pawn to simply get out of the pin, or Tani could play queen h3, which is a check, and when black gets out of the check, then Tani will save his bishop, he'll be up a piece, and he'll win the game. Black found a way to stop both ideas by playing f5. Now, of course, that stops the check, you see that. But how does it stop the queen from taking the pawn? Well, if the queen does take the pawn, then black will trade queens, and when the bishop takes, now the king and the bishop are on the same file. Rook to g8 wins the piece back, and with that great center of pawns, black must be better in this position. So, after f5, the game continued for a while, but all the while Tani was in this bad pin. We are going to jump forward about 8 more moves, and it was this crazy position. Now, Tani's white, it's his move, but he has a mountain of problems. First of all, this bishop is still in a pin. This time it's pinned to the rook. Also, this queen is about to capture the pawn and give check, and this king is without a lot of shelter. And lastly, the queen's going to come down to the square e3 with check and pick off this bishop. So Tani is up a piece, but he's got 3 different problems to solve. And if you, dear chess kid, can find one brilliant move to get out of all 3 problems, then maybe, just maybe, you'll be as good as Tani one day. Can you find it? Well, if you found it, hats off to you. Bishop takes g7, seemingly just giving away a piece. Well, let's talk about how brilliant this is. First of all, the bishop does an X-ray defense of the pawn on b2. We all see that. And if the queen gives check, I know that looks pretty dangerous, but actually the king can just hide on f1. It's the only legal move after all. And strangely, this protects the bishop because if your queen takes, I have magically pinned your rook to your king, and I'll just take your queen for free. Thank you very much. So, we've solved 2 of the problems, but what about the third problem, this bishop safety? Well, if the queen captures the bishop, which is what black tried, that deflects the queen away from this f5 square. She's not guarding f5 anymore, so the other bishop jumps into the game. Now your king cannot hide on this square. I just mate you in 2. I take your rook, your knight takes back, and I checkmate you. So in the game, the king decided to go down to the square c7, but that put the king and the queen on the same line, and Tani just said, boop, rook h7, give me your queen, give me the game. I was incredibly impressed by these 2 ideas. First, d5 to get the dark sword bishop in the game, and then the dark sword bishop playing bishop g7, solving all of Tani's problems at once. It was a brilliant effort. He beat the grandmaster. He went on to beat another grandmaster in the final round, and he was well deserving of his international master norm. The road to GM continues for the young man Tani.